Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Soul Land 2 Peerless Tang Men based on novel. So let's start. Xu Qianran squinted and said, "Do you mean?" The chief minister nodded. "Your Majesty, we must be decisive. No matter how strong these thieves are, they won't be able to challenge our Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineer Legion. They have been active in the southern coastal cities this time, so they are likely to still be there. We can send more aerial surveillance soul tools to watch that area, and also silently send out the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineer Legion. At the same time, we can send a few members of the worship hall to follow them. Once we discover their exact location, we'll destroy them as quickly as possible. We can then regain everything we've lost and stabilize the south." After pausing for a moment, he added, "The Empress is making a lot of progress at the front lines right now. We must stabilize things at the back and give her the appropriate support." Xu Qianran hesitated for a moment, then said, "All right, we'll follow you then." He Kaitu looked at all the soul tools that were piled up like a mountain, and couldn't stop grinning. Although only some of them were still usable, the rare metals that could be obtained from these soul tools were already considered very valuable. "Yuhao, I'm a little regretful. Before we set out, we should have brought our manufacturing line from the Soul Tool Hall with us. When everyone is bored and has nothing to do, they can manufacture soul tools in the demiplane. In this way, wouldn't it be more effective?" Shu Sancha chuckled at one side. "Kaitu, this isn't a bad idea. It's a constructive suggestion. The past few days have been good. I wonder what Xu Qianran is feeling right now. We've caused so many problems in the south. Yuhao, where are we going next?" After attacking 12 cities, the 3 Soul Engineer Legions of Shrek were unhurt. This greatly boosted their confidence. The Sun Moon Empire's defenses were simply too weak. No one from the 3 Soul Engineer Legions had even been hurt so far, and they hadn't suffered any significant losses. The damage they had caused to the Sun Moon Empire couldn't be measured by money alone either. The last few cities among the 12 that were taken down even had all their city walls destroyed before the 3 Soul Engineer Legions retreated. The soul tools used by the Soul Engineer Legions were powered by the soul power of the Soul Engineers. They quickly recovered their soul power after they returned to the demiplane. Huo Yuhao said, "We've attacked for 5 days straight. Radiant City should have received news. Along with our earlier attack on the north, I believe the Sun Moon Empire must be devising a plan to deal with us. However, we've not shaken their foundation yet. If we want them to pull their front-line troops back, we need Xu Qianran to be fearful. That's why we need to continue with our mission." Bei Bei smiled at Huo Yuhao and asked, "What's the plan?" Huo Yuhao replied, "The only way to make Xu Qianran fearful enough to recall his troops at all costs is by attacking Radiant City." "What?" After hearing his words, all the members of Shrek's 7 monsters were astonished. They all opened their mouths wide in shock. Although their previous victories had left them extremely confident, they weren't so confident that they believed they could take down Radiant City. What kind of place was Radiant City? It was the capital of the Sun Moon Empire. It was also the biggest city in the world. They had all been to Radiant City before. Tall buildings were everywhere, and many powerful soul tools were hidden there too. Huo Yuhao even claimed that there was a terrifying soul tool that could gather soul power before unleashing it when he went there last time. It definitely wasn't inferior to the Death God. Given this, wasn't attacking Radiant City suicide? After all, Radiant City had the Sun Moon Empire's trump card, the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineer Legion. At the same time, many powerful individuals were guarding the city. After sensing everyone's astonishment and doubts, Huo Yuhao smiled and said, "Don't panic. I'm not talking about a literal attack. As long as we make Xu Qianran fear for his life, it's enough. Xu Qianran is an anti-hero. The Sun Moon Empire's research into soul tools is definitely well beyond the other 3 empires of the original Doluo continent. However, Xu Qianran can't do anything without them. We attacked the north before the south, but did not encounter any effective resistance. This means that the Sun-Moon Empire is actually very hollow at the back. Furthermore, as Soul Engineer legions become more and more important in wars, the Sun-Moon Empire is becoming more and more disinterested in recruiting ordinary soldiers. Even with many soldiers, they wouldn't be able to pose a threat to us. And we've also continuously caused a lot of damage and losses to the Sun-Moon Empire. They can't just sit back and do nothing. Even if things are going smoothly at the front lines, how can Xu Qianran govern his empire if things are bad at the back? As a result, they'll definitely target us. To doom our Soul Engineer legions, the Sun-Moon Empire can only resort to sending their strongest fighting force, the Sun-Moon Imperial Soul Engineer Legion. While the Sun-Moon Imperial Soul Engineer Legion holds an important position in the Sun-Moon Empire and cannot be deployed easily, they can still be moved at critical moments. Although I don't know how many Soul Engineer Legions there are in the Empire, I'm afraid only this elite Soul Engineer Legion can truly defeat us. This is why we must wait for an opportunity, and wait for the Sun-Moon Imperial Soul Engineer Legion to come out. When that happens, Radiant City will be empty. Even if there are soul formations there, Wutong and I can still sneak in and perform an ambush. We don't need to really attack Radiant City. As long as we leave some marks in Xu Qianran's palace, I believe he won't be in a good mood. After hearing Huo Yuhao's analysis, everyone looked at each other, and there were rich emotions on their faces. Xu Sancha asked, Yuhao, did you think of this a long time ago? Huo Yuhao chuckled and replied, not really. I only made several discoveries during this period of time, which led to the development of such an idea. Bei Bei asked, Yuhao, if that's the case, I suggest we expose ourselves more. How can we bait them without leaving traces of ourselves? Huo Yuhao said, that's what I think too. Bei Bei smiled and said, since that's the case, let's continue to run riot in the south. The southern coastal cities are the furthest from Radiant City. Next, our mission will be completed by the Tang Sect Soul Engineer Legion. Huo Yuhao also looked at him and smiled. The others also wore devious smiles. Huo Yuhao's plan was to attack the enemy at a spot that needed to be preserved. If the Sun-Moon Empire sent any other Soul Engineer Legion, they would only suffer defeat. Once the Sun-Moon Imperial Soul Engineer Legion arrived, their opportunity would have arrived as well. Heavenly Sea City. It was an important port in the south of the Sun-Moon Empire. There was a plot of land in the southeast of the Sun-Moon Empire that extended all the way into the sea. It was a natural harbor. Heavenly Sea City was built on this plot of land. It was also an important training and mustering ground. The biggest shipyard in the Sun-Moon Empire was also at Heavenly Sea City. Ever since the war began, the navy that was stationed at Heavenly Sea City was sent out to seal the surrounding regions around the Star Luo Empire. However, Heavenly Sea City remained the most defensively sound city in the south of the Sun-Moon Empire. 10,000 soldiers and a large-scale soul formation were also deployed here. There were also 7 medium-sized warships here too. Such a deployment wasn't because of the Star Luo Empire. Rather, it was used to defend against aquatic soul beasts like Oak City and Eastern Sun City. There were many aquatic soul beasts, but very few of them were truly strong. The truly strong ones were mostly in the deeper waters. They rarely came to the shallower parts. However, even so, it didn't hurt to be wary. This was because there were simply too many aquatic soul beasts. Once a beast wave started, it would likely lead to heavy losses to the port. Things were also more jittery in Heavenly Sea City over the past few days. There were 200 soul engineers stationed here. They were responsible for protecting and using the soul formations. The soul formations in Heavenly Sea City were not in the city, but outside, less than 3 kilometers from the harbor front. While Heavenly Sea City was built on a plot of land that extended into the sea, it was elevated. Even when storms and typhoons raged, the waves that formed didn't really affect the city. There was a cliff close to 500 meters high close to the sea. The soul formations in Heavenly Sea City were all activated during this period of time. Their linked defenses remained active, while the aerial surveillance soul tools in the sky were constantly drifting around. They were used to guard against any enemies that might suddenly appear. It was no wonder they were so worried. In just a short 5 days, 12 cities had been overrun and completely looted. Although Heavenly Sea City was still fine, everyone became very anxious when news of their mysterious enemies spread. These mysterious enemies had even formed a Soul Engineer Legion. The city gates were sealed, and businessmen, as well as citizens, were checked more stringently as they passed. The mayor of the city even requested that the soul formations to be moved into the city. However, he was denied. Was it so easy to move large-scale formations? Some of the larger soul formations were extremely heavy. Furthermore, what if their enemies took the opportunity to strike when they were moving? That was the reason why this Soul Engineer Legion's commander vehemently denied the Master of Heavenly Sea City's request. Even though he was the commander of a Soul Engineer Legion that wasn't up to standards, he could hold his own against the Master of Heavenly Sea City, who was a count. Soul Engineers had the highest status within the Sun Moon Empire. They were on high alert and preparing themselves, but could they really stay safe? Huo Yuhao was standing on the shore less than 5 kilometers from Heavenly Sea City. He gazed in the direction of the city's harbor, as he couldn't help but admire it. What an excellent harbor! The land that Heavenly Sea City has been built on is relatively elevated, but the ground around them slopes downward. They can build a harbor near the ocean and look over it comfortably from Heavenly Sea City. The harbor has trade coming in from both sides of the city. What a fantastic place! Tang Wutong rolled her eyes. Are you crying crocodile tears? Are you not going to attack them after praising their magnificent harbor? Huo Yuhao replied casually, praising and admiring it is one thing, attacking and destroying it is another. It's not my fault that this empire's ruler has insisted on starting a war and invading our country. Why do I have to be the villain here if not for that fact? Tang Wutong said, Heavenly Sea City is on high alert, and they are sufficiently prepared. They are more well-equipped than Eastern Sun City was. This may not be easy. Huo Yuhao smiled faintly and said, nothing is impossible. Heavenly Sea City's defensive capabilities are better than Eastern Sun City's defenses, but its weakness is also very obvious. Their soul tool front isn't inside the city, so what does that mean? That means their linked defensive formations can't effectively defend the city. Why do we have to do things the hard way? Huo Yuhao grabbed Tang Wutong's hand as he spoke and disappeared into thin air. Darkness covered the skies, and that was good news for Heavenly Sea City soldiers. Heavenly Sea City was a developed commercial city, and it was also where an important military harbor was located, and their armies were of a high quality. The southern regions were flourishing and bustling, and life was peaceful. Soldiers were treated extremely well from day to day, and there were rarely days when they were especially exhausted. Ever since the recent appearance of that mysterious enemy who had broken through 12 cities and pillaged them, Heavenly Sea City's atmosphere had become extremely tense and nervous. Heavenly Sea City was one of the largest cities along the Sun Moon Empire's southern shore. There were docks and battleships, and it was rich with resources. Those 12 cities were wealthy, but there was still quite a gap between them and Heavenly Sea City. That was the reason why Radiant City had sent a strict order that Heavenly Sea City had to be defended. They were to relay any information as soon as they obtained any. Heavenly Sea City had also become one of the cities along the Empire's southern shores, which was most likely to be attacked. The city defense army became vigilant for that very reason. They increased their daily patrols, and their inspection process for merchants and civilians coming and going also became much tighter. Every single individual entering the city had to go through both soul power detectors and spiritual power detectors. They would have to go through more interrogation and investigation if they were found to be soul masters. The city hustled for a day, and the sun was finally setting as it went down towards the west. Their tense and busy day was about to end. The city's thick gates were slowly shut, and that meant the city defense army could finally get to rest. The sky gradually turned dark. On some plains 5 kilometers from Heavenly Sea City, light began to bend and contort. Aerial surveillance soul tools couldn't discover such fine details by looking down from above. As for oscillation detectors that conducted searches closer to the ground, they would only be activated once those aerial surveillance soul tools discovered something. Naturally, they wouldn't be scouring this area. Shadows and figures popped out one after another under the cover of those contorting light rays, as 9 large pitch-black doors opened up at the same time. Huo Yuhao was standing in front of these 9 doors, and those contorting light rays were a result of his spiritual interference domain. His domain's strength allowed him to cover 1,000 square meters. That was sufficient to cover the 9 large doors, which were his spectral gates. Huo Yuhao's spiritual power had undergone a qualitative change once more after he fused with the mermaid princess. Now, his spiritual interference domain had truly matured into an extremely powerful domain-type ability. Furthermore, 1,000 square meters wasn't his limit. What he was doing with his domain's formidable interference capabilities was equivalent to rendering everything within this area invisible. Even though spiritual interference domain still left traces, and wasn't as intricate and fine as imitation, it had a range and area of effect that imitation couldn't match up to at all. 200 armed soldiers from the Tang Sect Soul Engineer Legion stepped out soundlessly from those spectral gates under the cover of his spiritual interference domain. Nobody made a sound, and they immediately formed up with guidance from Huo Yuhao's spiritual detection, after they appeared and waited quietly. Huo Yuhao looked up at the sky, and the corner of his mouth curved into a faint smile. The others from Shrek's 7 monsters had stepped out from those spectral gates one after another, along with the rest of the Tang sect's stronger individuals. Second senior brother. Huo Yuhao acknowledged He Kai-tu. He Kai-tu chuckled. He shook his hands, and a series of metal clanging sounds could be heard as a heavy cannon appeared on each of his shoulders. He raised those cannons and pointed them towards the sky. Faint golden light flickered in Huo Yuhao's eyes. Boom, 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 boom. A series of dull booming sounds could be heard as black cannon shells were fired one after another. They couldn't be told apart from the darkness, because the sky had already turned dark, and not even aerial surveillance soul tools could identify them. Fireworks exploded through the sky after several seconds, as the eyes above Heavenly Sea City were shattered. Bei Bei waved his hand and shouted, "Move out." The Tang Sect Soul Engineer Legion surged into the sky at the same time. They opened their flying-type soul tools behind their backs, as they flew towards Heavenly Sea City. Heavenly Sea City no longer had any eyes in the sky to monitor the situation, so nobody could possibly know where this Soul Engineer Legion had come from. Those aerial surveillance soul tools that were detonated triggered the alarm, but so what? Heavenly Sea City's soul tool front was on the other side of the city. Several minutes later, the Tang Sect Soul Engineer Legion, which was spaced out in a horizontal single file, appeared outside Heavenly Sea City. They didn't stop at all as they immediately assaulted Heavenly Sea City's thick city walls. More accurately put, they were bombarding the city's walls with everything they had. A Class 5 high-powered soul cannon had enough strength to blow a hole more than 10 meters wide and 3 meters deep in those thick city walls. What about 200 Class 5 high-powered cannons? 2 rounds. Only 2 rounds of bombardment were required before Heavenly Sea City's northern city walls had become a pile of rubble. Enter the city. Bei Bei gave the order as the Tang Sect Soul Engineer Legion's soul engineers immediately charged into the city. Huo Yuhao's spiritual detection guided them straight to the city's warehouses. Huo Yuhao commanded the Soul Engineer Legion while locking onto the city's soul tool front, which was outside the city, at the same time. There was no way the soul tool front wasn't aware of the tremendous disturbance on this side. However, they no longer had their aerial surveillance soul tools in the sky, so what if they had a soul tool front? They were blind. Did they dare to bombard their own city to deal with their enemies? That wasn't a possibility at all. The soul tool front couldn't defend the city, so Huo Yuhao would just let it defend the harbor. The master of Heavenly Sea City had just gone to sleep before he was jolted awake by deafening booming sounds. He had just gotten dressed when the reports came in. The northern city wall had been broken through, and their enemies had appeared. There were at least 200 soul engineers, and they had already charged into the city, where they were going straight for the city's warehouses. Heavenly Sea City had lost contact with all their aerial surveillance soul tools. They were likely to have been damaged or destroyed, judging from the explosions in the sky. The Sun Moon Empire had put in a lot of effort to improve their aerial surveillance Soul Tools cover. However, any cover was futile against Huo Yuhao's otherworldly spiritual detection. Quick, request aid from the Soul Engineer legions. The master of the city could only make that one exclamation. The messengers swiftly departed as the city master sat back down on his bed. His eyes had become a little vacant. Why didn't we discover any traces at all before the enemy appeared right in front us? What are those aerial surveillance Soul Tools for? No wonder. It's no wonder those 12 cities have fallen before us, and not a single piece of information was obtained before they fell. This enemy is too frightening. Does this mean they can render themselves invisible? Why are those aerial surveillance Soul Tools so useless against them? He lamented agonizingly. He was very clear what the city's fall meant for him, and the situation that he was most afraid of had happened in the end. This wouldn't have happened if those Soul Engineers had been willing to shift their Soul Tool front into the city. But it was far too late to think about any of that. The Count was a smart man. He knew that the Soul Tool front over there couldn't do anything without the aerial surveillance Soul Tools, and it was impossible for them to send their Class 3 Soul Engineers out of their Soul Tool front to rescue the city. Their superiors wouldn't fault them as long as they defended their Soul Tool front, and if their superiors had to blame somebody, it would just be him. A pained smile appeared on the Count's face. Heavenly Sea City had fallen. Yes, everything was within Huo Yuhao's calculations. What he wanted to execute was a hit and run. They were to strike the city once and quickly before retreating at once without any delay. Huo Yuhao's aim was to pillage the city. Destroying the Soul Tool front outside the city would of course be fantastic. He would very much rather the Soul Tool front's Soul Engineers come to rescue the city. No matter how advanced or formidable the Sun Moon Empire's Soul Tools were, everything would be futile if only Class 3 Soul Engineers were using them. Both legions had the same number of people. One side was filled with Class 3 Soul Engineers, while the other was filled with Class 6 Soul Engineers, and it wasn't hard to imagine what the outcome would be if both sides clashed. Therefore, Huo Yuhao was hoping for the Sun Moon Empire's Soul Engineers to get aggressive and charge out from their turtle shell. He was hoping they would charge into the city and fight with him. If they dared to come, Huo Yuhao and the others would probably annihilate those 200 Soul Engineers with several mass attacks. They would probably destroy the harbor outside at the same time. Unfortunately, whether it was because the Sun Moon Empire's Soul Engineers were smart or cowardly, they didn't appear on the battlefield in Heavenly Sea City after all. All they did was activate their linked defensive formations to the highest possible level. Heavenly Sea City was a large city, and the pillaging continued until daybreak the next day. When the Tang sect Soul Engineer legions, 200 people, who were like kings of the night, retreated, Heavenly Sea City had descended into utter chaos. Huo Yuhao didn't know before he came that there was an underwater mine in the ocean close to Heavenly Sea City, and it produced a kind of rare metal known as deep sea silver. This rare metal was extremely valuable, and it was an excellent material for forging stationary soul cannon shells. This metal was very tough, and it was most suitable for constructing long-range stationary soul cannon shells. Huo Yuhao found a warehouse in Heavenly Sea City that was half filled with these things, and he packed them into his spectral demoplane. As for other resources and money, how much did they actually pillage? Huo Yuhao wasn't sure himself. He opened a spectral gate inside Heavenly Sea City's warehouses and flew away dramatically after pocketing everything. The Soul Tool front outside Heavenly Sea City didn't attack at all from the beginning to the end, and the pillaging was now complete. Huo Yuhao left the city and stopped at a place that was relatively far away. There were no aerial surveillance Soul Tools in this place, and he wasn't afraid of being discovered at all. A spectral gate opened as the Tang sect Soul Engineer Legion's 200 members returned to their spectral demoplane as quickly as they could. Huo Yuhao didn't go back. Instead, he remained outside and found a relatively obscure place before he went into hiding by himself. He didn't even bring Tang Wutong this time. They had pillaged 13 southern cities continuously, and the Sun Moon Empire's southern shores were in complete disarray. That was sufficient for now. What Huo Yuhao had to do next was wait. He had to wait and see if his judgment was correct. The mission at Heavenly Sea City had been delayed by a day compared to the 12 cities which came before. Everything had been smooth and successful, so he had to wait and see if his strategic goal would be realized. Huo Yuhao found a small hill and quietly lay down in a thicket. He stared at the blue sky and the rolling white clouds above him, and he felt a certain inexplicable comfort and satisfaction. The most luxurious thing for him was to just sit there and daydream without thinking about anything, and he was enjoying that rare but wonderful moment right now. All kinds of images and pictures flashed before his eyes, and everything that had happened in his life surfaced continuously. He was most unwilling to reminisce about his experiences with Wang Qiu'er and Wang Dong'er, but those memories appeared uncontrollably in his mind. Qiu'er, are you truly part of Wutong? Wutong isn't just Dong'er. I can sense your presence in her. If that's the case, then that's just fantastic. There were several important women in Huo Yuhao's life. His mother was most important to him when he was a child, and his mother's passing dealt a heavy blow to him. The most fortunate thing that had ever happened to him was when he had met Wang Dong'er, and being together with her gradually made him forget about his hatred and resentment, and helped him find peace. That was the reason why he could accomplish what he had today. What about Qiu'er? She's still an integral part of my life that I can't live without. Qiu'er has taught me many things, and I didn't accept her love from the beginning to the end. Even so, she had always been quietly giving and giving. Soul beasts have feelings too. The person that I have let down the most is Qiu'er. What will the continent be like in the future? Huo Yuhao felt a little lost in his heart. Their plan was probably their last chance, and if they couldn't achieve their goal, the Doluo continent's 3 native empires would be in danger. The Sun-Moon Empire's soul tools were too strong. Unless Huo Yuhao could destroy the entire empire, the Doluo continent's 3 empires would be swallowed sooner or later. It seemed impossible for them to close the gap in soul tool technology for now. The gap was too great. The Sun-Moon Empire's royalty had been holding back for so long, and they probably had sufficient strength long ago. But they were always just suppressing themselves. Huo Yuhao had fought the Sun-Moon Empire's Soul Engineer legions. He had to say that even though the Tang sect Soul Engineer Legion consisted entirely of Soul Emperors, they had no chance of victory if they had to fight against one of the 5 legions from the Sun-Moon Empire's hand that protects the nation, if both sides had equal numbers. This wasn't just because of the gap in their technology. It was also because of the discrepancy in the Soul Engineer's understanding of soul tools. Furthermore, the Sun-Moon Empire still had Zhu Zi. Zhu Zi's talent at commanding on the battlefield was extraordinary. She was still holding back a little when she faced him, but what about the Doluo continent's 3 empires? How powerful could she be if she unleashed her full potential? Huo Yuhao could still vividly remember when the Mingdo mountain range was first broken through. Who would have thought that that event was just a diversion? The Sun-Moon Empire's armies were powerful, and they had an intelligent commander. The Sun-Moon Empire was practically invincible on the continent. The truth was, there wasn't much that could hold their own against them in direct battle. Everything will be futile if we don't destroy the Sun-Moon Empire's main forces. The Sun-Moon Empire's surveillance soul tools haven't been able to detect me, but after suffering huge losses, they probably won't need too long to come up with a soul tool that can find me, considering how advanced their technology is. What I can do now is delay things as much as possible, and prolong the time that the Sun-Moon Empire needs to sweep over the entire continent. A bitter expression appeared on Huo Yuhao's face as his thoughts stopped there. He was starting to understand the Heavenly Sun Doluo, who he had participated in the same mission with. Those titled Doluo were undoubtedly very proud and arrogant. How could they make a move against an infant unless they really had no other choice? They clearly didn't try to stop Huo Yuhao and Tang Wutong with their full strength when the two of them were breaking out. Huo Yuhao was still very confident in his own abilities before he ventured to the Ice Sea. But after that expedition, he understood that titled Doluo were just titled Doluo, while transcendent Doluo were just transcendent Doluo. Back at the Mingdo mountain range, when he was breaking out with Tang Wutong, more of why he was successful was because those titled Doluo and transcendent Duluos didn't work together to attack him and Tang Wutong. Otherwise, it would have been almost impossible for them to leave. Before, a single ultimate Doluo could intimidate and threaten an entire country. Following the development of soul tool technology, personal fighting strength was waning continuously. Many soul masters still didn't properly understand that fact. At least, the Holy Ghost Church hadn't grasped that reality yet. Back when Huo Yuhao had encountered the Holy Ghost Church for the first time, he didn't understand why the Sun Moon Empire would work with such an evil sect. Those evil soul masters were so cruel and evil, and their existence would undoubtedly bring calamity to all life. What would the Sun Moon Empire be like if the Holy Ghost Church held power in the end? But as he continued to fight the Sun Moon Empire, Huo Yuhao witnessed more and more of their truly formidable soul tool technology. He gradually understood that the Holy Ghost Church was just one of the Sun Moon Empire's chess pieces. Two ultimate Doluo were extremely powerful, but how would they fare against a Soul Engineer Legion's linked soul tools? Would they still emerge victorious? Whether the Holy Ghost Church wanted to or not, and even if they were sufficiently prepared, could they really threaten Shu Qianran's rule? Shu Qianran was a terrifying figure. The deep-seated and hidden strength of the Sun Moon Empire's royal family was even more frightening. Only places like the Royal Palace and the Worship Hall were considered the Sun Moon Empire's true core. The Sun Moon Empire had made sufficient use of the Holy Ghost Church, and they were making use of them to fight the Doluo continent's soul masters. When the continent was truly united under one ruler in the future, and when their soul cannons were turned around, how could they not have enough reason to deal with such an evil sect? Huo Yuhao was starting to feel cold sweat breaking out through his shirt. He slowly realized that he seemed to see through some things only when he truly sat down quietly to think. The Sun Moon Empire is so terrifying. I wonder how the front line is doing. Can combining the Star Luo Empire, the Heavenly Soul Empire, and the Douling Empire's strength cause some trouble for Juzi? Juzi was also one of the most important girls in Huo Yuhao's heart, for no other reason than the fact that she was the first woman who had entered his heart, and that was enough. Huo Yuhao could still vividly remember how he had felt when he first met her, and their experience of going through life and death together afterward left a deep mark in his heart. He still didn't know that Donga was a girl back then. He couldn't even imagine what the future would have been like if Juzi had chosen him back then, and whether he would truly be with her. Huo Yuhao couldn't answer that question, and his mind was always filled with mixed emotions when he thought about her. Juzi said he was too soft-hearted. Yes, Huo Yuhao was soft-hearted when he was facing her. But wasn't she the same when she was facing him? But she was wife to the Sun Moon Empire's emperor, and the Sun Moon Empire's war god empress. If the Sun Moon Empire continued to invade in the future, he would have to face her sooner or later. Huo Yuhao's eyes became a little dim when he thought about the future. He truly couldn't see how the future would unfurl. This video will end here.